We're going to open with Sanjay Sridhar.
Sanjay is the anchor manager with EMBARQ at Bangalore. But what's interesting, and I think this is the issue around access in public spaces, and he he's a part of the EMBARQ India Urban Development and Accessibility Initiative, and he will talk to us more about that.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you all for coming, and just to give you a little, maybe 1 minute nutshell of what the kind of work I'm doing and the organization I represent. I'm part of the World Resources Institute. It's a Washington DC based global urban development think tank, and we look at all aspects of urban development pertaining to accessibility, inclusiveness of cities, making cities more compact, and of course it goes into other factors of ecology and sustainability as well. But in Bangalore, I am heading quite a few initiatives in terms of making cities more inclusive. To begin, I think some of the three key areas that were called out by the previous speakers and by Sanjay as well, which is workspace, transportation, and public spaces. So I'm quickly going to go through those three and talk about the initiatives that we're putting together. With workspace, now I'm from Bangalore basically, and I've lived in the United States and Europe for over 10-15 years. And I was on the panel in the state of California looking at enacting guidelines as part of building code requirements, which makes it mandatory for all public buildings to be accessible for the physically challenged and the visually challenged. And it goes into requirements in terms of how wide accessible toilet stalls need to be, what is the height of urinals, what is the height of wash basins, what is the height of the mirror, because all of these become points that really begin to affect the way a person with disability starts to interact with public spaces. So I'm working very closely with the BBMP here, and in terms of making sure that our building code is up to speed with the requirements that come in that are unique in some ways, in terms of making sure that these requirements are on par with the needs and necessities of people with challenges. And at the same time, we're actually doing a brainstorming session with ADAG. ADAG stands for American Disabilities Act guidelines. So we're kind of learning the lesson from ADAG and trying to see, because it's not that the laws don't exist here, it's the enforcement of the law that begins to challenge. It's our biggest stumbling block in some way, which is the enforcement part of it. So we're trying to see in what ways can the laws be beefed up in some ways in terms of making sure that it is mandatorily implemented, at least in public buildings to begin with. Hospitals, schools, libraries, Bangalore One centers, for example, when you want to go and pay your utility bills. And the second one is I've been doing quite a few initiatives in terms of transportation. We're looking at making buses that are, I'm working very closely with BMTC, with the new management at BMTC. We're looking at getting buses that can open up the front flatbed and make it a ramp automatically. But that is from the provider end, but from the city's end, what I'm also trying to get the city to come up with kind of citywide standards in terms of what should be the height of curbs, what should be curb cuts like. If a person on a wheelchair is walking on a pavement wants to get off on the street at the intersection, what should the intersection look like in terms of, you can see some of the images there, not only for the visually and physically challenged, but it also for senior citizens if you look at it, because the city has to be accessible. And we're working with Bangalore Metro. I'm actually doing a very interesting project, the Baipanhalli to MG Road, which is reach 1 of Bangalore Metro. We have been commissioned to do an accessibility study for all the stations along that reach as a pilot project. And then we will come up with recommendations to the Bangalore Metro, and we will tell them, if people cannot get to the station, forget using the metro. There's no way people are going to use the metro and generate the volume, because it's also the number of riders who ride the metro. The metro wagons might be accessible, but if people can't get to the station, there is no use. I mean, it defeats the purpose of having a mass transit in the city. So we're looking at working with multiple city agencies, the metro, the BBMP, the BMTC. But in terms of public spaces, Diana and Joseph, we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago. I have done a lot of work in northern part of Karnataka, in Bidar and Patakkal and Airole, and all these are historic places. Patakkal, in fact, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We are actually putting together a team and a program where we're going to work with Archaeological Survey of India and try to make these monuments accessible, because there should be no difference between a person who can or cannot go to a monument based on their ability and challenges. So there is actually quite, and something that I should also mention in the previous panel was there is enough resources to do the kind of work that we want to do. And from my own personal experience, I'm working with, I work very closely with Ashwin in terms of the kind of initiatives we put together, and this is something that I would recommend to Footwear also, is to partner with the government, but not by telling them what to do, but actually by showing them how it is done. Because it is a huge difference when the people within the system, and as Ashwin again rightly says, there are challenges and there are limitations, but it is nothing that cannot be overcome, because there are people within the system that understand the challenges, they know that they have to deal with it, but it's only a question of having the right people in the right place and getting the initiatives moved through the system, through the government, by actual demonstration projects, where we've, similar to the metro project that we're doing, where we will demonstrate all the stations along each one, and then try and get those guidelines implemented across the other stations in the metro, across the city. Therefore making the city, in fact our vision is to make Bangalore the first most accessible city in India. That is the key. And we believe that Bangalore will be a model. It is a model in many ways. It will be the first city that will implement a bicycle network. In fact, there's an initiative from the Union Government, Department of Development, the Secretary for Mobility and Transportation is actually funding. So we plan to have about 10 or 15,000 cycles dedicated within certain neighborhoods, and we might start with Janagar or Malaysian, where it is possible to implement these bicycle networks, but at the same time. So I think these multiple initiatives will converge at a point where there will be enough work for us to show and to showcase to the rest of the country what a group of people can do in terms of the vision that we share in common and the ability to use the system to our own advantage. It's been a pleasure, and I thank one and all for coming here. And I apologize again, I have a flight to take to Chennai for this bicycle network. We are trying to talk with TI Cycles in Madras, one of the big manufacturers, to sponsor some of these bicycle initiatives in the Bangalore University campus and the Mandivada and other kind of monuments in and around Bangalore. So I apologize, and I'll be more than happy to take some questions before I try and get to the airport before 2 o'clock.